Okay, this is not what I was intending to be doing right now, but it's kind of a spur of the moment thing. It's a spur of the moment thing. It's happening. This is what's going on. I've got Due Dissidents running, and they're talking to Chris Hedges. I don't remember the guys. Keaton Weiss and Russell Dobler, I think his name is, are the Due Dissidents. YouTube. This is on YouTube. I'm YouTube. What can I tell you? This is on YouTube. It was posted 2 hours ago, and they're talking to Chris Hedges. And they're saying things that need to be heard. So, this is what I'm doing. I'm also full on Frankenstein cooking right now, because I need food, and I want something that's going to last for a little while, but I don't really want to futz with it. I just want to do it and get it done. So I've got some leftover hot dogs in the freezer. What passes as a freezer. And I'm using up some vegetables. I'm gonna throw them all in a baking dish and throw them in the oven for a little while. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but that's the plan. And then this popped up. This was totally out of the blue, but it's something I got comments for. So, I'm just going to let it run, and I'm going to get my dinner. First I got to do dishes. I'm going to let it run while I do dishes, and we'll see where this goes.
Go to democratic structures that would restrain his power. And you mentioned that a lot of the left seems to be cheering this on and going along with it. Why do you think that is? Because I have a few thoughts. A lot of it, I think some of it may have to do with the internet, the medium being the message. I think that fuels a certain rage, a certain impulse to troll, a certain schadenfreude impulse. But I would love to get your thoughts on why do you think so many who kind of are in the same, basically ideological lane as us, I think we can broadly say we're pretty much there. Why is this being cheered on to the extent that it is?
I think they're naive. I think they don't actually grasp what's happening. I detest the deep state, which is a state within a state. It's unaccountable, especially the intelligence agencies. The disastrous military fiascos that it has visited. I spent 7 years in the Middle East. That has been visited on places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, everywhere else. And so that hatred for the deep state, which is a hatred I share, they seem.
Is it too late to right the ship through democratic means? I mean, I think it is.
It's too late to right the ship through establishment institutions. Yes.
Right, through regular order.
This is the part
we have to build a rival militancy on the left.
Right.
And it's one that has to begin with the understanding that we can't work through the system. That ain't going to work. And we haven't even talked about the climate crisis. We have to begin to build that militancy to shut things down, to make things difficult to operate.
Controlled.
To make those in the centers of power frightened. But that means stepping outside the system and confronting it.
So speaking of the climate crisis, if I could just plant a little flag there, I think it's interesting because I think that's a perfect example of how the liberal class has discredited a lot of noble left causes like environmentalism. I think the Yellow Vest movement in France signaled that. I can tell you, as a delivery driver, I know this seems facetious. Paper bags are a total pain in the ass. Paper bags, the transition from plastic to paper bags costs workers money. Seriously. It takes a lot more time to deliver groceries from the car to the door when you got these paper bags with no handles on them. It costs workers When I was driving Instacart and DoorDash, it would cost me at least $10, $15 a day, which is $50 a week, which is $2,500 a year. That's not chump change. And so I think when workers see these regulations put on their backs, and then they see people lecturing them about climate change from, meetings like, Davos, where they fly to on private jets, I think that's a perfect example of how the liberal class has just discredited a very noble left cause, which is environmentalism. So what do we do as a left organizing-wise? Do we get back to basics and simply focus on a labor-oriented movement, or do we try to incorporate some of these other things? And how do we do that without signaling allegiance to the liberal class who discredited us?
Well, labor, you can't build any successful resistance movement without labor. Period.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
I mean, history
You
has shown
can't
that.
build anything without
What is
labor.
it that brought down Batista in Cuba? It wasn't Fidel in the Barbudos. It was the nationalists. It was a nationwide strikes.
Yes.
Same thing that brought down the Shah.
Nationwide
Same thing
strikes.
that brought down the Tsar. I mean, that's the key.
Workers
And
refusing
we
to
have
work.
the power to shut the country down.
The power to
And
shut the
when
country
we use
down.
that power, we can get what we want, which is some kind of social equity, social responsibility, justice, to use one word. But the ruling class has worked overtime since the 1970s to make sure that labor is broken, and
Right.
even about 11% of the workforce is unionized. 6-7% of our public sector, so they can't even strike.
And
The-
they've been
the
working
one weapon
even
they have
longer
to
than
further
that
their
to make
demand is
sure
sort of
all of
freight
us are
their
broken.
workers. And then you have the problem with the established labor unions. The people who run these unions are making 5 times what workers are making. They've been bought off. They dance to the tune of the Democratic Party, which is no friend of labor, of course. So it's not just the system, but it's those people who present themselves as representing labor have to go.
Right.
I mean, we have to really, and the successful strikes. I mean, the West Virginia teacher strike was a wildcat strike. The unions didn't
Right.
want to do it.
Right.
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 But part of it's education. I mean, we're not going to do it with flash mobs. You can't go on Twitter and tell everybody to show up somewhere and, put on a hat.
What we need to do is shut the country down. The country down, all we need is for all of us workers who keep things running, just sit home on the couch for a little while. Shut the country down. This Friday, I think it's Friday, February 28th, there's an economic blackout. We need to shut the country down. What do you do when something's not working? You turn it off, and then you turn it back on. We need to shut it down. We need to make the overlords afraid. My idea, best way to do that is we all take a week off and go home and spend some time with our family. And at this point in time, it's perfect. Go home and spend some time working on a garden. We need to shut the country down. We shut the country down, they're going to have to listen.